And welcome, folks, to USA Ultimate's live streaming coverage of the 2019 Division One College Championships. Coming to you from Round Rock, Texas. Keith Rayner joined in the booth by Emmy Fitzgerald for a Pool C matchup for the men's division. Pittsburgh against Wisconsin, two of the most storied programs in the division, Emmy.
Yes, it is. And Wisconsin making some waves by qualifying for nationals. And it's been an interesting road for Pitt on the other side. They lost to Victoria, who is having a bit of a Cinderella story so far in the tournament. They just beat Tufts. And Wisconsin, though, had a better day yesterday, but right now is at stake who will continue on in the pool.
Yeah, it seemed like Pittsburgh was going to be able to take control of the pool with an emphatic win over Oregon Ego. So now had a chance to mention all five teams in Pool C. Wisconsin got a great win over Victoria, but Pitt drops the game to Victoria and throws the pool into chaos, as only Tufts is without a win thus far. So this game has taken on a monumental amount of importance in this pool and deciding who's going to be able to earn that ever so valuable bye in the bracket and who's going to be on the outside looking in.
And Live Ultimate ambassador Trent Dillon, of course, Pitt alum, and gave a bit of a history lesson to fellow ambassador Jimmy Mickle and I, going back to 2012. And throughout these matchups, Pitt has been victorious, beating Wisconsin each year. I think it was something like 5 times since between now and 2012. But it's a different squad. They're a familiar foe, but sometimes when you're too familiar, it's kind of all bets go out the window. Anything can happen.
Yeah, they say it's tough to beat a team a bunch of times in a row because you get to know each other. It's just tough to execute on that level. These two teams in their current iterations have played each other once this year, but all the way back in February, a 10-7 win for Pitt at Florida warm-up. I don't imagine Wisconsin would fancy themselves the same team as the poll goes up. Wisconsin in the whites on defense. Pittsburgh in their new Nationals golds on offense. Hafiz Shams gets the disc. Shams moving over to the O-line late this year. Dan Goldstein in the middle, now looking deep for Andrew Lemberg, but this one hangs in the air. Lemberg with the superior read. He gets the first goal, 1-0.
And right away, Pitt doesn't want to waste too much time on offense, have as much efficiency as possible. And you can see the end zone was just immediately in sight. Very well placed throw.
I love this cut from Lemberg coming from back in the handler space, attacking an unsuspecting defense. And really, Lemberg, I think, is one of the most important veteran presences on this Pittsburgh team. A captain who's been at nationals, been in the big spots, and put in the work. The team really believes in him.
And they'll rely on him as well as Michael Ing, who we see getting a drink of water. He came up very big for Pitt at college nationals last year. He's a very strong athletic player.
Ing, just a tremendous talent, player who can do it all. He can play offense for them. He can play defense. We see him crossing over to play with this D-line. His younger brother, Henry, a freshman at Pittsburgh, unfortunately for Pitt fans, injured. But prior to nationals, he was really their guy on defense. And so I think they're pulling Michael over a bit more frequently to replace the production of his younger brother on the defense.
Those Ings can play some Frisbee.
Absolutely. And so can these Hodags as their offense gets to work. Throw on the around from Rami Paust. Paust now in the middle of the field, crossing the USA Ultimate logo. Into the red zone with Nick Vogt, the offensive star for Wisconsin. And the Callahan nominee drops the scoover over the top to Paust to make it 1-1.
And that was a really nice over-the-top look. This is the downwind end zone. The wind is not that strong right now. But I like that he fakes the scoober, comes back, and ends up using that same throw. So Wisconsin answers right away. Neither O-line taking that much time to score.
Efficiency on display from Pitt and Wisconsin. But two teams whose defenses have some teeth and have intelligent, experienced coaching staffs. I think as they feel each other out, you're going to see these defenses start to clamp down. So we see that Wisconsin defense prepping. Andrew Brown and Becky Ladone and Hector Valdivia giving them just a wealth of veteran experience to lean on and to learn from.
And we see good fan presence as well from both teams. Both Wisconsin and Pitt are the handful of teams where both men's and women's teams qualified. But that ends up helping as you go farther into the tournament with more of a sideline presence.
Garlock with the pull and Shams with the first touch. Poachy look from Wisconsin. Lemberg now taking a shot, looking for Matt Hanna. Hanna with separation, and Lemberg just pilots that disc into the hands of Hanna for another quick Pitt hold.
So Lemberg got the goal last time, gets the assist instead, really showing the versatility of this Pitt team, and that makes it so unpredictable for the defense on what they're going to do. But you just see another just hold score very, very quickly. The onus is really gonna be on these D lines to mess up the offensive flow, and that's when you can really start to see the breaks happen.
Lemberg taking that natural progression from cutter to handler now as a veteran and showing off the throws to Hanna, who's a bit of an unsung player on this Pitt team, which has had so many stars. But I'll tell you what, Hanna's got a nose for the end zone. So we see him get his first goal and what very likely will not be his last in this game.
Just see this really large Wisconsin contingent.
Hodags have always traveled well. And now with Belladonna by their side, who's having a nice tournament of their own. See how they hold up Saturday. Deep shot sneaks over the hands of the defender, and then some late contact. John Tan getting tangled up with Miles Cooper as he tries to get a read on that one. Cooper.
I think he's saying that maybe the disc was a little bit too high. Let's take another look. I think from that angle, we don't have a definitive view of maybe where contact happened.
Yeah, I think this is the right outcome from my vantage point. I don't think that disc was catchable. Both the height and that how far back out of bounds I think it would have been. So the contact ruled incidental. Kevin Trey gets things started on the first break chance for Pitt. Cooper reels that one in, but his throw too low and booted away, soccer style. Only Wisconsin will get the disc. So now Paust brings it in and has a poach target, Ben Pavelka. Wisconsin's offense nearing the end zone, but a stoppage in play will halt their progress.
So this is the first time so far in this game that an O-line has had to take a second opportunity to try and score. That sometimes has cascading effects as you go further into the game from just a tiredness standpoint, all of that.
Absolutely. I mean, you want your D-line out there to grind that O-line down, and the D-line gets another turn. Kevin Trey leaving his feet. That contested catch turns into Pittsburgh's disc. Will Hoffenkamp bringing it in on the sideline. That one getting away from Alex Spenceley. So a wasted opportunity for Pittsburgh.
And some execution errors for Pittsburgh on the offensive possession before this and then just now as well.
Pittsburgh's D-line offense not yet in rhythm, but Wisconsin looking to strike here. Cooper and Chase forces Shuey to go early, and Shuey makes a incredible grab at the back of the end zone.
What a catch from Shuey at an angle, that trailing edge disc. But those are the kinds of plays that you need. Wisconsin having a couple different offensive possessions, just ending the point in a very definitive fashion. But those are the execution errors we were talking about.
See Trey getting a hand on that one, but again, just not quite how you draw it up. Makes it a lot more difficult. You want to make things easy for your teammates. And Shuey, however, making sure that this one, nothing easy about it, still counts for a goal.
And there are two Pitt defenders in the end zone. So that throw really had to go close to the back of the end zone to be completed, forcing a play to be made. So now we're all tied up. For all that work, that was still a hold.
Yes, those points feel like they take on more and more meaning as they extend in length and possession changes. But we are all knotted up at twos. Pittsburgh's offense starts with Leo Warren. Shams now with the disc. Warren creates some space with a deep cut, and Hannah collects it on the sideline. Around the horn for Insabanur. Little flip up to Max Thompson. And Thompson's throw mishandled by Warren. So the first break chance of the game for Wisconsin. Here, the saving grab from Maddox Hill and a stoppage in play.
And Pitt was doing a good job of using that full width of the field, but those swing passes are sometimes underestimated in their difficulty. And you could see just a little too low.
Particularly in these conditions with the wind gusting, the disc not always maintaining the same flight path as you might expect. Catches get hard, and there, an unusual catch.
That's a little weird.
Coming up with the deflection there, and Leo Warren maybe taking some issue. But disc will stay with Mascalunas, who I do believe released that disc, had it bounce back to him. Stall count climbing for Mascalunas, so he's forced to try and put something towards the end zone. And remarkable grab, back-to-back big plays for Wisconsin, but this one is for a break. Max Wolk coming down with the big sky for the Hodags.
Max Wolk timed that so well on what was a desperation punt into the end zone.
Save and grab for the Hodags. And then another, and then another. So by the skin of their teeth, but look at this play.
Wow.
I as they went to the ground, I still wasn't sure who had it.
I really thought that Pitt had the better positioning, and I think they did, but you really just credit Wolk for just going and getting it and avoiding contact or some kind of foul call in the process.
Warren taking a sip. Everybody trying to stay hydrated. We're in Texas.
Never going to knock hydration.
No way.
And yesterday we did have heat timeouts. So far, local time, it's only 10:13 a.m., but it's 78 degrees.
Yeah, we've got a pretty thick cloud cover so far today. Maybe even a tiny bit of precipitation so far, knock on wood, but today much cooler than yesterday's temperatures, though the wind has been the bigger factor on both days. Warren slinging it up to Ing. Again, we're seeing Wisconsin with some poaching in the lanes, trying to delay Pittsburgh's ability to initiate their offense. Pittsburgh cleanly navigates it as Wisconsin tightens up in a more traditional matchup, although another pick will stop play. Vote clarifying with the observers on the stall count. Vote crossing over to play defense for Wisconsin, and he may be able to show his value as they are now on offense after the throwaway.
Vote, a really big presence, especially in the deep space, but he won't get that chance.
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything he could have done with that one. The low throw hits the grass early. Pitt with a second chance. High throw from Hoffenkamp. We've got another jump ball, folks. So hang on, which is exactly what Max Thompson does as he comes down with that one-handed catch.
Thompson was in a great spot, and you could just really see the length of his limbs as well.
So each team making big plays in that upwind end zone jump ball situations, and both showing that they can contend in the air.
And Thompson didn't even need to really jump that high. It looked maybe he jumped about 7-ish inches off the ground. But this windy condition, I'm sure as the tournament's going on too, these players are sort of figuring out the path of the disc with the wind. That said, that it changes a lot too as the game progresses.
And I mean, you're a Texas resident yourself.
I am.
Are these kind of conditions typical, or is this something that you get used to playing in the area?
You definitely get used to playing. I've played sectionals on this actual very field for the past few years, and our teams practice in the wind a lot. You play in leagues in the wind a lot. That's not saying that everybody is a great thrower in the wind, because not everybody's a good thrower. Let's just be real. But if you're a pickup practicing in the wind, then you start to pick up on things. Texas has crazy weather, and that includes a lot of wind.
So these teams have had a day and a round to start to get used to it themselves. Certainly these Wisconsinites, no stranger to strange weather. But there, that disc getting away from Vogt, but perhaps with the aid of some illegal play as he makes a call.
So he bobbled the disc, but it seems like maybe some contact from the defense maybe caused some of that. We'll take a look. I don't think so there, though.
Yeah, I'm gonna side with you. I mean, I'm a bit skeptical. There is a little bit of contact, but looked incidental to me and unrelated to Vogt's error.
Yeah, it would have been a stronger argument if it really looked like he was closing in on the disc and then you could see the change, but that was not clear from what we saw.
The observer, however,
Oh.
did see something different on the field level, and given that the observer is 150 yards closer and wearing orange, their opinion is going to be the most important one here. Paust narrowly gets that one, but his around throw beyond the reach of Vogt, and Vogt is going to say that he stopped rotation on that one before it was dislodged by Will Helensky of Pittsburgh.
Yeah, let's take another look.
And this is an improbable catch by Vogt if he was able to make it. From the sound of the crowd, it's going to be Pitt's disc, and I think I see Vogt's perspective there. He could feel his hand around the disc, but I again am incredulous that he was able to stop rotation completely.
I agree with you. And this time, it seems like the observer did.
Deep shot, well beyond the reach of Helensky, so Wisconsin gets it back. Pitt missing on all three of their early break chances. Around throw for Paust. Horizontal stack for Wisconsin. Inside break knocked away by Kevin Trey, and this is the best scoring opportunity this Pittsburgh defense has generated.
That inside throw is fun, but it does give more room for the defense to get there, and Pitt certainly took advantage.
And a nice hard jab step from Harry McNamara. Gets him up the line and gets Pitt their first break. We're back on serve. Pittsburgh 4-3.
So that huck from Pitt that was incomplete, one positive about it is that it was at that corner, so it took more throws to get it into the middle of the field. A little more pressure situation, but really credit to heads-up defense from Pitt.
And Pavelka just that throw a bit behind, giving Trey a great shot at it. So you talked about the inside throw and how challenging it can be. It's so difficult to really step out and put that in front of the receiver when the release is often behind them. Takes a lot of skill, and Pavelka, a skilled thrower, but always going to be tough to execute.
Especially at the angle where the cutter was coming to. It's not an in cut where maybe you throw, the inside out goes to the other side of the defender. Since it's so close to the end zone, the cutter was coming across, so the defender was essentially right in front of where the thrower was too. Maybe an around backhand or something else would have worked better.
I've been told that Live Ultimate Ambassador Claire Chastain and of course a star Molly Brown and a coach of the Colorado Cali women's team who's here at the college championships. Been told she refers to the inside break as the devil's throw.
Yes. I played on a club team once where we had several players who were very IO flick happy, so happy that every time there was one that was incomplete, had to run crossfields, and you just tacked it on because it's so fun to throw. It's so cool to see the angle of the disc go that way, and you can have some huge payoffs. That's not to say there's not value in it, but it tempts you, just like it's the little devil on your shoulder tempting you, whether it's the right choice or not.
I have heeded its call many times in my career, for better or for worse.
You have your coach on one shoulder, and you have the IO throw on the other shoulder.
And you see the voice on the shoulder of the Wisconsin O-line is their Callahan nominee and leader, Nick Vogt, as he directs his charges. Got a chance to watch them against Victoria yesterday. And Vogt, despite the fact that Wisconsin was up maybe 10 goals at the time, one of his teammates threw an ill-advised throw, and Vogt pulled him aside afterwards. They even held that point. and still said, we can do better. And not there, they can't. I'm sure Vogt maybe pulling somebody aside for a talking to after that one. Pittsburgh's going to take a timeout with a really just wonderful opportunity if you're a Pitt fan to get a break.
And it's just those little execution errors which we saw from Pitt in the first couple of points of the game. This time on the Wisconsin side, Pitt goes up 2. That's significant this early on.
Absolutely, and the outcome of this pool still up in the air with the results from Victoria. And both of these teams have to feel like winning this game is critical if they want to try and win this pool.
Especially Pitt, since they lost to Victoria, and Victoria has been having greater success, kind of building on the success. Although Victoria plays Oregon, and Oregon has been doing well so far in the tournament, so they will be a strong matchup.
Oregon 2-0 against UVic this year, their fellow Northwest team, and at last count Oregon leads Victoria 4-2. So they may make it a clean sweep this season, much to the chagrin of Pittsburgh. Or Wisconsin, excuse me. Pittsburgh probably rooting for that and out, but probably more focused on rooting for this break as Kevin Trey tries to get up the line. Stall count climbing, and that around throw just high enough, but I think maybe a foul call, though not sure if it's by Vogt or against Vogt.
Vogt involved in a lot of the calls, but I guess to be fair, he's involved with a lot of the main plays of the team. But Pitt there didn't really have a second handler back, so there was an eventual around throw that was made to Helensky, but it was kind of late, so meanwhile there's some kind of tangled up going on between Vogt and Pitt.
And the wind kind of coming across the field from left to right on your screen, also from the far end zone to the near. And it's making, I think, those swings really difficult, particularly when you're going in towards this end zone, which is now on the left side of your screen. And a sharp inside break from McNamara. He catches the last break, throws the next one. Kevin Trey slams it down. Pittsburgh 5-3.
So the timeout proved worthwhile for Pitt. They were able to set up some offensive flow, but I mean, Wisconsin gave them the possession and the field position on just a handler miscue.
And Pittsburgh makes them pay. McNamara with the devil's throw. Takes a break.
Worthwhile that time, and now they're up by 2. But we've seen so many times in this tournament, no lead is safe, especially in the first half with so much time left.
Absolutely, but conceding a break in that upwind end zone really could be costly for the Hodags. Number 10 seed coming out of the North Central, the third team or third place finisher, I should say, at North Central Regionals, which was a exciting tournament.
It turned a lot of heads. Of course, Carleton Ultimate not qualifying for the first time in decades.
Interestingly enough, both of these teams failed to win their regionals, but are the highest seeded team from their region at the championships. Pittsburgh seeded well ahead of 8th seed Ohio State, who defeated them in their regional final. And Wisconsin, just a couple spots ahead of Minnesota, who won the North Central region.
And I was listening to the Deep Look podcast that you and Charlie did, and you all spoke at length about regionals finishing, and should that make an impact for both positive and negative, and I think it's an interesting argument.
Yeah, those tournaments are meaningful, they feel meaningful, and Charlie has a strong opinion that the seating should reflect that. And maybe we will see as a deep shot goes up from Paus, but the wind just gobbles it up. Maybe we will see the rankings algorithm weight games based on their position in bracket. It's something people have talked about. I don't know that it's on the table, but USA Ultimate always listening to ways to try and make the rankings algorithm as reflective of what's going on the field as possible. Now what's going on the field is another Pittsburgh break. A beautifully weighted huck into the hands of deep target Michael Ing. And Pitt is rolling now. They're up 6-3.
That cut is what we've seen from Michael Ing since he was a teenager on the national stage, playing for Philadelphia Amp, even before he was in college. And once he's headed towards the end zone, I mean, that's a full field huck. Just such great closing speed. There's no stopping that.
Ing is a freight train once he gets going to the deep space and led this Pittsburgh team in goals at last year's college championships on their way to an appearance in the final. And number 3 seed, you got to think that this is a team that believes they can not only get to the final, but win it.
Do you think they can?
It's a tall task. I mean, the teams seated ahead of them, North Carolina and Brown, have looked a cut above. But I'm a firm believer that if you can get to the semifinals, which certainly is within this Pittsburgh team's capability, then all you have to do is play 2 good games. And unlike many teams, Pittsburgh has been there. They know about how to execute. You see this coaching staff headed up by Nick Kazmarek, who's got titles to his name. And that type of resume, that type of experience, which permeates this Pittsburgh roster, is a valuable one, especially if things go to seed and they match up with a Brown team that's the 2 overall seed that doesn't quite have that same level of experience on the roster.
Talk about legacies starting here as part of the USA Ultimate theme. And Pitt is a very good example. Really Wisconsin too, but in more recent memory, Pitt certainly is.
It's been a few years since we've seen the dominance of the Hodags of old. Wisconsin swings it around against a Pittsburgh zone, mixing up the looks here. And Ted Shuey with a great throw spots Carter Keller downfield. And Keller gets the goal, and Wisconsin gets a much-needed hold.
And that throw was just put up to space. And Keller was already pretty deep, so sometimes that's tricky in the downwind that it would just sail out the back, but really you could see that touch that was placed there. It hung enough, just run onto it.
I think what I like there, and if I'm not mistaken, Keller, that's his first touch of the point, maybe the game. In zone offense, as a cutter, it's really easy to get antsy. You feel like I'm not getting the disc. Maybe I'm not helping my teammates. Maybe I'm not doing a good job. But especially when you're that player who's really far downfield, whose job it is to pull back other defenders, open up space for your teammates, a lot of times it's that person who catches the score. And they only get 1 touch, but it's the one that's worth a goal. But they created a lot of space for their teammates, even if they're not necessarily getting the disc.
He, if nothing else, had to keep the deeper defenders honest, which they did create a lot of that space for the throw to be able to go up.
I think a lot of inexperienced cutters are afraid to go deep in zone. There's the other team's best defender back there. It's hard to make the throw, but you don't need to get the throw. All you got to do is make the defense work with you.
Especially mixed too. If it's a male deep, and then they're female cutters, still play your role regardless of what the gender matchup is.
Michael Ing moving the disc. A lot of mixed experience there, but Matt Hanna's basically got one experience. It's scoring goals. That is the Matt Hanna experience. His second trip to the end zone makes it 7-4, Pittsburgh.
Matt Hanna just doing what he does. This is a regular Saturday morning for him at a tournament, Just happens to be college nationals.
It's not flashy. I mean, Matt Anna's not the flashiest guy, but he just has a great sense of timing and plenty of wheels. And a lot of the times he catches goals like this, mostly uncontested. Just times up a good deep cut in that first couple seconds after his teammates get the disc when they're most effective at making the throw, and gives them easy windows to throw into.
And I think that showed a lot of trust and chemistry between thrower and cutter, because Hannah did not just start sprinting towards the end zone. He had a little bit of short steps, kind of like before you have a layup in basketball, a little bit of approach steps, the word I'm looking for. And then he adjusted. Since he didn't just go charging towards the end zone, he could move around a little bit based on where the disc was going.
Pittsburgh sending a defense out there. They would love to end this first half with a break. Hungry D-line, and Wisconsin ready to receive. Offense has been a bit shaky in this half, but can't let this game get away from them. It's a big difference, even if they give up the ensuing hold. Big difference between 8-5 and 8-4. Shuey behind the receiver, but athletic play there by Tan. Now here's Vogt as Wisconsin gets into the red zone and starts to set up their red zone set. Pavelka lifts a backhand into a tidy window to Paus. Paus with an aggressive series of fakes. Vogt slips. Paus finds a new option. Lifts a scuba over the defense, and Sam Radak gets the goal.
And Wisconsin using a good variety of their players, and that was the patience from Wisconsin that we really needed to see for them to have a shot to stay in the game. Took a lot of passes to get to the end zone, but paid off.
Yeah, I don't know, patience is necessarily the word people associate with Wisconsin's O-line, but displaying it there, and when it's necessary. This is a team with a lot of experience, and we talked about their coaching acumen, but they need to know when to rein it in a little bit. So you see Becca Ladone out talking to the defense, trying to fire them up. And she is as fiery as they come. I know if I were one of her players, the last thing I'd want to do is upset her.
She for sure knows her stuff. And that's just what's so cool about the Wisconsin and that Madison Ultimate community as well. Just really strong minds of the game that come out from that area.
And really cool, on both sidelines, both teams with women on the coaching staff. Not the most common thing yet in the men's division, but Ladone for Wisconsin, Christy Laurie joining the Pittsburgh coaching staff. Both accomplished, talented players in their own right. Now, coaches on the big stage. Pittsburgh quickly advancing downfield here. Floaty around throw, hangs up on that crosswind, but Ing brings it in, and then a quick pick call.
I think it's hard to call a pick on that, where it was sailing over everybody. But good heads up from Ing.
So Pittsburgh now near the end zone, and Ing confident tee with the disc to take the timeout. And it's easy to remember when he was just a young pup on the field, and now the veteran presence to burn the TO in the red zone.
I think that's what's so neat, and especially the addition of more and more live streaming across probably the past 5 years or so, from USA Ultimate, from Ulti World. There are even communities. I know the Austin community has live streams that they just kind of do on their own. So you're able to see these players grow and develop. And that's such an I hope that's such an encouragement for other young players who are watching too. It's also just to have footage to see yourself playing as well. It's just tough to have enough personnel for a high school team or college teams to be able to get that footage.
The Ultimate community constantly growing, but as it grows, we find more and more stars, talented players as Youth Ultimate continues to develop. I mean, here in Texas, the youth scene seems to be growing every year as they become more and more competitive at the Youth Club Championships. Pittsburgh, a well-developed scene of their own, and it's helped fuel this Pittsburgh team that has taken half 8-5 against Wisconsin. Little drop off for Daniel Goldstein does the trick to end the first half.
And Ing does such a great job moving his mark. You see he uses that full 180 degrees and probably didn't find his first option, but found a wide open cutter straight to the front of the end zone.
Same side fake there for Ing. Vogt feels like he stopped that open side throw, and then as he's adjusting back to a more neutral position, Ing able to put that backhand on the same side of the body of the mark. Difficult to deal with, so Pittsburgh with the advantage, 8-5 after an impressive first half, Emmy.
Yes, Pittsburgh starting off really strong, and they're up by 3, but there is still an opportunity for Wisconsin to come back in this second half, but they need to do it quickly.
Absolutely, and I'm sure they're going to talk about it during this halftime break. We're going to take a brief break of our own, and we'll be back for the second half in just a few minutes. Welcome back, Ultimate fans, to USA Ultimate's live streaming coverage of the Division I College Championships. Keith Rayner, joined by Emmy Fitzgerald here in Round Rock, Texas, just outside of Austin. Getting ready for the second half of this men's division pool play game. Pittsburgh holding an 8-5 lead over Wisconsin. Emmy, what kind of adjustments do you feel like this Wisconsin team is going to have to make in order to get back into this one?
Wisconsin, first, they have had some offensive miscues, so you can't give Pitt back the disc especially whenever they're up by 3, but they also need to figure out how to stifle Pitt's deep game. Pitt has had a few deep shots that didn't require a lot of throws from the up front, so recognizing that, seeing what you can do to slow down that rhythm and force them into some of the execution errors we saw in points 1 and 2.
Well, they'll get a chance to do just that as they are on offense to start this half. Pass in the middle of the field. Pittsburgh, again, electing to guard space rather than individuals with the zone defense. And Paust, despite the wind, has been confident with that scuba. Another Hodag scuba. High throw brought in by Henry Goldenberg, and now to the end zone. Shuey toes the line for a Wisconsin hold. Efficiency on display there. 8-6.
And you could see from Pittsburgh that they were really trying to prevent the Hucks. So there was a lot of defensive coverage in the deep space. So instead, Wisconsin has to go underneath. And you said earlier, Wisconsin not known for their patience, but once again exercising that when they need to. But now it's time for the break. This is the hard part.
Absolutely. Wisconsin, a program that has built a reputation for great defense, and they'll need to summon it here. So they're going to need a break soon against this Pittsburgh team. In other Pool C action, the Oregon men with an 8-6 halftime lead over Victoria. Well, Victoria will be pulling downwind to start the second half. The big news here from the Round Rock complex comes from the women's division. The number 10 seed Georgia, their first trip to nationals since 2013, with a halftime lead over UC San Diego, the number 3 overall seed and a widely considered championship contender.
Wow.
So keep an eye on that.
I'm sure your Atlanta roots are pretty happy about this so far.
I just want to see a good game. I mean, I got stock in that UC San Diego team. I picked them to win the national championship. I can't have them dropping games in pool play. But impressive showing for a Georgia team that's 2-0 right now. And I think very few people picked Georgia to come out here and have a good tournament. They came out of a one-bid Southeast that wasn't the strongest it's been. Hadn't had a lot of elite results. And I mean, this would be a crowning win for your season.
And that just shows anything is possible in any situation. And you see teams lose by just missing goals right outside the end zone, but in the same way, you can win in the same fashion.
Well, Pittsburgh continues to win in the same fashion. Simple recipe, throw it to Matt Hanna. Third goal for Hanna. Third involvement in a score for Lemberg as well, I believe.
So Matt Hanna, you can see just how experienced he is catching the deep throw. That disc was coming in fast. Bobble, bobble, bobble. Oh, wait, I'm really close to the end zone. Drags the toe and looks over at the observer with the biggest grin. I'm in, right? I'm in, right? Yes, you are.
I think he's just bored. I mean, I commented that a lot of his goals he catches without the defense even making a play. So he was like, you know what? I'll make a play. I'll defend myself for a second.
He doesn't even put his other foot down on the ground, and he's looking at his observer. It's down, right? Yes.
Hanna having some fun. Easy to do that with a 3-goal lead. Pittsburgh up 9-6 now. But to revisit your point, Anything can happen is an old sports cliche. That's why they play the games, people say. But part of what makes College Ultimate so exciting, what makes this tournament maybe my favorite tournament of the year, is that you never really know what 19 to 20-year-olds are going to do. They could go wild. They just don't have consistency. And that makes it exciting. They can make an incredible play. You can see teams struggle and those narratives emerge. But the surprises are always there. You never get exactly what you expected when you show up to the college championships.
I love it too because the learning curve is very high for these college players. So you never know when something is just going to click for a player too, and that could make such a difference.
Wisconsin, Huck, but nobody's home there. Nobody's home. The chant from the Pitt alum group here in the back of the end zone nearby.
It's like they heard you, but they didn't hear you.
We talked about the Wisconsin team travel as well. I can't remember a nationals where there wasn't a horde of Pitt alums making themselves known on the sidelines, we should say. The future Pitt alums right now working on a potential break. Hoffenkamp with the disc. The sophomores having a nice tournament. Swings it over to Harry McNamara. The sophomore class for this Pitt team, it feels like they're going to keep this team in championship contender for a long time as Hoffenkamp gets up the line. Finds a release with Spenceley. Calmly looks upfield, and then Helensky with a little juke gets into that front side space.
You talk about this sophomore class, they were freshmen when they made a trip to the finals. And to start your college career in that fashion just has to be such a motivating factor as you're growing in your own skills as part of a team, getting breaks.
And Vogt, it's his responsibility not to get beat to that front cone. And he looks frustrated both with his teammates and potentially with himself. Got caught looking at the disc, and by the time that he set up to defend Helensky, he wasn't really prepared, overcommits to the break side fake, gets beat to the open side. So things kind of falling apart for Wisconsin right now as they're in a 4-goal hole to a strong Pittsburgh team.
And for Vogt, he realizes that his team is down a few goals. He's one of the leaders of the team, so maybe trying to do a little bit too much as well. Oh, okay, I want to be there. Maybe I can still get the block on the break side, but then you're giving up just enough on the force side that gives that opportunity to the offense.
One of the things that I preach to my players, Emmy, is, especially my leaders, is that it's not about not making mistakes. It's about how you respond to mistakes. And this is a chance for Vogt to lead by example and show his teammates, like, it's okay if you mess up. How do you deal with that? Because that's what you have to contend with. Nobody's going to go through this tournament without making mistakes. But the teams that respond to those mistakes well, the players that rise up, despite the fact, are often the ones who emerge with the titles.
To be super corporate and cliche, mistakes, they're opportunities. They're opportunities.
But not ones that Wisconsin can afford many more of. They've had just a few too many without learning those hard lessons. Pavelka in a high stall situation, but manages to find just enough space to hit Vogt. Vogt taking off, but Paust already looking at his reset. Wisconsin handlers keeping possession alive as the Cutters work to find room. Nice break throw from Paust, sets up space to hit Ted Shuey.
And really nice switches from Pitt, but sometimes that does give an opportunity for Wisconsin.
Kistler over to Vogt. Vogt taken to ground by Mike Ing. Michael not going to contest that foul, and Vogt brings it back in. Another switch. Spenceley now on to Vogt. And able to attack the switch. Pounced up the line from Vogt. 10-7 now.
And that point was so much communication and chemistry from Wisconsin that you saw. All of those switches, and at first it really looked like Pitt was going to get that D. There weren't a lot of options that Wisconsin had, but they found those swings around, and then that ended up breaking through into those holes that they could make that score upwind.
You know, I in my estimation, I think that teams, particularly at the college level, have gotten a lot more intelligent and open to playing more switching defense. It started in the backfield. People were trying to stop the up line, and now it's extended to downfield a little bit. But the pendulum, I think you're seeing it swing the other way as offenses are becoming better at attacking the switch, starting to recognize where the opportunities, the seams are created by defenses that are in transition from one defender to another.
And that you really saw Wisconsin capitalize on that exact point. But they're still struggling to get the breaks that they need. And Pitt just attacking that deep game.
And now they're going to force Pittsburgh to go upwind, so a great opportunity for Wisconsin. Shams. Now finding a hole to Warren, and Warren looking deep for Ing. A rip-up wind, but the wind wins that battle, forces it to be a jump ball and swatted away.
And definitely more difficult going upwind, but that is also the appropriate pressure that Wisconsin needed to put in the deep space. But now you see Ing poaching really far on that underneath.
Jacob Reuben Miller with the block for Wisconsin. But Pittsburgh gets it back as that throw sails over the head of Mascalunas, who, as tall as he is, it's tough to get it above his reach. Pitt's offense back to work. Hoffenkamp inside break.
This is a pretty crucial moment for Wisconsin. If they are able to get the turn and then subsequently score, taking it within 2 is much more surmountable than within 4.
Goldstein looking to try and push Pittsburgh closer to a victory here and put Wisconsin in an even tighter bind. But without an option, Warren puts a hammer upfield, and we've seen both teams make big plays in this situation, but a lot of contact. Looks like Lemberg's going to call a foul.
That hammer just sailed so much. Not what you really want to see from a hammer, but
and I am roundly against making foul calls in packs of players. I mean, if you enter 4 or 5 players, a space that all of you are occupying, jockeying for position, it's so hard to really claim I was holding my position or this guy fouled me. You know, players are pushing each other. I think that Lemberg was contacted there, but the player who contacted him was being pushed by somebody else.
right.
You can't ask for the game to bail you out of a bad spot. And I'm going to say, with the lack of vocal support from that Pitt alum group not far away from us, even they don't feel strongly about that one.
If they did, we certainly would be hearing about it because they have not been shy about any other calls.
Absolutely not. And Wisconsin, however, happy to take possession of the disc. they've converted just one of the 3 break chances they've had so far. Small sample size, but only they can expand it. Here trying to expand the field with a lengthy deep shot pushed out of bounds by the wind, but at least going to give Pittsburgh 70 yards in front of them or thereabouts.
And you saw a bracket from Pitt in that vertical stack, making the undercuts really hard. So that throw was the only option.
Goldstein gets up the line and finds Hoffenkamp on the sideline as well.
Sure. Double covered. And Wisconsin had the momentum. That's where you fake the big throw to move your defense, and then likely you can get something underneath. You're downwind, you're too close to the end zone to be able to put up something that floaty.
I got to agree. I mean, I understand the aggression when you're all the way down in your own end zone. You want to make sure you make Pitt work it down here. You want to take your shots with the wind. But by the time you get down here, you should be able to convert in the red zone. You don't have to play the field position game because you've already got good field position. Poach in the lane in front of Lemberg. Injury sub taking place before Pittsburgh's possession began. Ing with room to roam. Back to Goldstein, and now he'll use that power position to put a flick to the upwind end zone, and another score for Pittsburgh, 11-7.
I mean, Wisconsin had a few chances, and if you can't convert in your end zone, how many chances are you going to get? And Pitt capitalizing, they know their deep game. It works so well that that's what they go to make it count.
Yeah, and I got to say, Wisconsin, I think, by giving up so many up lines, getting Goldstein in power position, particularly going upwind, it has to be a priority to keep the other team out of power position. Sometimes you can stop the deep game by dealing with the cutters, but a lot of times you can stop it by taking the offense out of that power position where they can make great upwind throws or deep throws. And there, Goldstein beats his man up the line, and he's got the momentum to put that out in front of Warren and the defense.
So Pitt just really looking in control, and we see a lot of games momentum shifting back and forth, and Wisconsin showing what they're capable of, but not doing the extra.
And this Wisconsin team has had a tough year. They don't have a lot of marquee wins from their regular season. You know, they, like we said, they finished 3rd in their region at regionals, and they have not been by any means a bad team, but they haven't been able to go out and really beat a lot of the elite competition they've played against. So, you know, Pittsburgh represents an incredibly difficult challenge, and I think if Wisconsin manages to fight back into this game, it would be one of their best wins of the season.
And really fun to watch. So as an Ultimate fan, that is what I'm rooting for, is for a good game. So certainly hope that happens. But they need this upwind hold to start with that.
Another high-flying catch from John Tan. Coming up with a big play when Wisconsin seems in need of an injection of energy. Radak gets the around. Paust resetting to Pavelka. Paust and Pavelka really have been the hub of this Wisconsin offense. Shuey inside break to Pavelka as Wisconsin crosses midfield. And Vogt's throw pops up in the wind. Edge just a little too exposed there. And now Pittsburgh with a chance to break.
Wisconsin was not on that break side as much, and kind of saw why. Difficult throw to make.
But that disc bounces off the chest of Miles Cooper on Pittsburgh's 8th break chance, ending that and giving Wisconsin, the disc back. Paust getting ready to pick up, clarifying exactly where his pivot foot should be. Although there's a couple players laying down on the field, so I think we may have an injury, potentially a collision here.
So while those players are sorting out what happens, and we definitely hope that they're all right, it's really time for Wisconsin. We're 15 minutes away from the soft cap, and they need to make a move here.
Ted Shuey going off the field for Wisconsin. Just a quick update. We talked about the game to watch this round. Georgia in the women's division with that lead over UC San Diego, but San Diego has scored twice consecutively out of the half to reclaim the lead. They're up 9-8 in that one. We've also been keeping an eye on the other game in this pool, Victoria and Oregon. Still a 2-point game as they're coming down the stretch of that one. Oregon up 10-8.
So keeping it close over there.
This game back underway. Not quite as close. Wisconsin open to change that. Mascalunas with the helpful redirect. They play a lot of hockey in Wisconsin, I think.
Don't know if these players specifically do, but I'm sure there are some.
I feel confident in guessing that there's at least one hockey player on this team.
I even played in a hockey league myself and have not lived in the north.
Pavelka, the little inside break. Quick flip to Vogt. Fights through a little bit of contact, and now just looking to finish this possession. But that gold-clad goalie in front of them trying to deny them from the end zone. Vogt to the open side. Tacks with the give and go. And a target emerges. Vogt goes down, however. There might be an injury call that's actually going to bring this score back.
And you hope that, and it will stand. You hope the players are okay, but it is unfortunate when your team scores, but if there's an injury, that it has to come back. That was not the case here.
So that'll make it 11-8. Couple of Wisconsin guys a little worse for wear after that one, so hopefully Shuey and Vogt both okay. While this game has a lot of value for both teams, I don't think Wisconsin a loss here really eliminates them. So there's more ahead in this tournament for the Hodags. Pittsburgh, however, in a great position to win Pool C and get that coveted bye into the quarterfinals. All they got to do is close this one out. 12 minutes to soft or 4 goals. Either will do.
The onus was definitely higher on Pitt coming into this game because they already had the loss. But I think that's the nice part of this setup of a tournament versus maybe like NCAA basketball where it's a one and done.
Would you like to watch that? If the college championships were single elimination?
I think it is really exciting, and then it breeds for more upsets. There we go.
That's a little fire from the Hodags, upsetting the order of this offense with a layout block by Dan Garlock. Garlock now with the disc. And another layout for Wisconsin. Back-to-back layouts. That triggers the acrobatic celebration of Reuben Miller. Garlock with a layout block. Reuben Miller with the layout score. Wisconsin with a break to make it 11-9.
Well, based on the celebration, you can see why he had so much body control getting that layout score. And Wisconsin needing to make those defensive plays in favorable field position. So that way they only had about 10 yards to go.
Take another look. Garlock jumping that lane to prevent Hafiz Shams from being able to get to it. And then on the other side, Reuben Miller makes sure he gets to it. Full extension, two hands, off the head, and then into the flip. What do you give that, a 7, 8?
Yeah, I give that an 8. I mean, he stuck the landing. We needed to see a little bit more like demonstration afterwards. But especially given everything that he went through just being on the ground, I couldn't do that. But you were talking about if it was a March Madness style bracket here. I think as an ultimate fan, that would be so exciting. It's excruciating for these players, and then you travel all this distance and you could only play one game. But I think that's what adds to the emotion of everything.
And you could still have consolation plays.
Right.
A quick response from Pittsburgh. Goldstein dials up another one to Andrew Lemberg, and he counters the Reuben Miller head spike with a head spike of his own. I don't know that moms like to see the head spike, but the kids seem to enjoy it.
Yes, Mom. That is definitely not the friendliest. But what do you do? All of this emotion. At least the Frisbee's light. If we were playing baseball,
oh yeah.
let's not do the head spike. Yeah, maybe not.
I don't know if I've ever seen a baseball spike of any sort.
Well, at least the offense is wearing a helmet.
It's true.
Number one. Number two, I don't know that there would be very many baseball players still playing many games afterwards if that were the case.
Absolutely not. Baseball stadium looming near the field complex. I believe it's the home of the local minor league team.
Round Rock Express. Those are fun games. Been to several of those, if anybody ever has the chance. I think it is the feeder team of the Houston Astros, I believe.
That sounds right to me.
But you do see baseball, players will hit the bat on their helmet.
Mm-hmm. The bat flip.
Yes.
Celebration, just a part of sport. I mean, that is why we watch, is to see people experience the joy of success together. Right now, Wisconsin trying to find just a little slice of that joy for themselves. Trailing 12-9, but going downwind. Disc gets ahead to Anders Shropshire. And then Vogt, little drama of his own, deflects that, but secures it on the second effort. Wisconsin trying to create space in the middle of the field. You can see these cutters getting closer to the sidelines to try and open up space. But Pittsburgh's defenders seem to be doing all they can to clog up the lanes, and Vogt finds just a little bit of yardage, but nowhere to go with the disc once he gets it.
There's not a lot of yardage advantage.
Pittsburgh looks pretty content to give up that horizontal yardage as long as they can clog up Wisconsin's ability to advance towards the end zone. You can't score at the sideline. You can't. Doesn't matter how far to the sideline you go. You can't score there.
You're just getting further and further out of bounds, and Wisconsin's shown how skilled they are with various throws in their toolbox through the middle.
And finally, a target's available. Rush throw from Pavelka, but saved by Shropshire. Gets those 2 feet stuck in the turf and brings it in.
And it was from the sideline that they made that happen. But at first, it looked like the thrower was just going to wasn't going to see it, was going to look to try and go back into the middle of the field. But those are those small opportunities. Really smart 2 toes, or 10 toes, I guess, keeps it in bounds.
First point of contact, and Shropshire makes sure of that one. And see him with the arms wide open, the nickelback, hey, I am available. I love that. I think it's an underrated ability of a cutter to present a target. You want to give your thrower a big window to throw to. Not just so they see you, but because as a thrower, you feel more confident with a big, wide target in front of you, someone you know your receiver's prepared to make the catch. And when you see, especially your cutter's chest, gives you a big target to aim at. And there, Shropshire puts his arms out, says, give me the rock. I'm here, I'm ready. And showed that he really was.
And especially when it's that close of a distance. If you're further away, I've heard some people say, oh no, you need to use your arms for running. Don't have, have Chad Kroger style or whatever facing open. But he's so close and doesn't want to make noise to alert the defender that he's kind of snuck in.
So we're 2 nickelback references deep. Exactly what you came here for, I'm sure. Pittsburgh coming for the end zone yet again. A second defender, however, going to take that opportunity away. Yet another block for Ruben Miller. Comes over the top, and Lemberg, who grimaced when making the catch before that turnover, going to take an injury sub. So Will Hoffenkamp subs in for Lemberg. Matching sub for Wisconsin as they bring in Paus to try and guide them to a break. An opportunity to bring on one of your top O-line guys.
And that was great help from Wisconsin. They've seen that Pitt will look for Ing in the end zone. So just takes some anticipation coupled with a throw that's too deep. Pitt can't make the play.
Sam Hebert begins the possession for Wisconsin, and Pittsburgh using that stoppage to transition to his own defense. Ing on the mark. Now Ruben Miller in the middle. Paust and Hebert working a little 2-man game on the inside of the cup. Tight window there, but Wolk able to get it through, and Hebert's done a really nice job cutting through the middle of the cup as Pittsburgh transitions to match up.
And that inside flick is what's so useful there. Pays off for Wisconsin.
And Paust ends up getting the assist after subbing in for the injury. Showed a lot of value there, got a lot of touches, and gives it to Hebert. And don't look now, Emmy. Got a 1-point game.
Wisconsin goes upwind to break. They take it within 1. And now Pitt has to go upwind. So it'll be a greater test. You have to hand it to Wisconsin. They worked the full 70 yards. They figured out that their backhand arounds are more difficult in the wind, going upwind. So what can we do instead? And the little devil's there, but that inside flick really can slice through to make it work.
So, Emmy, after that upwind break, Wisconsin now is going to force their opponent to hold upwind. When these upwind, downwind games, upwind breaks are kind of like a buy one, get one free. They come in pairs. But A concept I've dubbed flipping the break here. If Pittsburgh can hold up wind, they put the pressure back on Wisconsin. And maybe it'll be them who's able to get the 2 goals for 1. So from here on out, both teams with a lot of pressure on them to score in this upwind end zone. We'll see if Wisconsin can make some adjustments to how they're defending the handlers and the deep cutters to avoid giving up an upwind score as they did last time.
And the pull helped. That was a great pull that landed in at the back of the end zone. Gave maybe a little bit more time for the Wisconsin defense to be there.
A bit disorganized, however, as Pittsburgh's managed to find a lot of room early, and they can't stop Shams from gunning one to the end zone. And the deep defense for Wisconsin continues to leave them out to dry. Hoffenkamp goes up for the jam from Shams.
And you called it, Keith, that the Wisconsin offense was just a little bit out of sorts. Maybe not running down on the pull quite quickly enough, or credit to Pitt to really moving the disc right away. And let's be real, that wasn't the best huck that we saw right there from Shams, but real credit to the receiver. He should still celebrate it, though. It was caught. It needed to be.
Shams is a known celebrator and a guy who can really fire up this Pittsburgh team. You really can't let him wind up a massive backhand. You can't give that opportunity up. Even if that's a 50-50 shot, it's too high of odds that you're going to give up that upwind break. And credit Hoffenkamp with going up over Mascalunas, who's one of the last people you'd pick to go up in a jump ball against. Hoffenkamp, 6'4" sophomore, some size of his own. But
really uses that body. And if you're Wisconsin, if you're a little bit behind, at least flash no big for just a second or so. Prevent that.
I mean, what was it? 60 seconds ago, I was saying, wow, they really can't give up this upwind break. And then here they are. Break got flipped on them, and pressure's on them to hold upwind. I mean, to me, it feels like this point is a must-have. I mean, even if this won't quite get Pittsburgh the score that ends the game, I don't know if Wisconsin can win this game if they don't score here.
I think there was an offsides call. That was a great pull, so we'll see if the next pull will be just as good.
Was at the Division III College Championships last weekend. We had a lot of examples of pulls that were not good, where someone went off sides, and then the second pull was better.
Just need a little test wind up. That pull was about the same.
I mean, this is a full 70 with the defense already set on you. I think if you're Pittsburgh, you take this 10 times out of 10. First throw, uncontested, up ahead to Vogt. But Tan misreads the lane, and Helensky gets the block. So a downwind break opportunity in front of Pittsburgh. Hoffenkamp, who just caught the last break, with the high release for it into the end zone. Just outside, Chris Ing with an improbable one-handed grab takes the timeout.
So for as bright as Pitt's jerseys are, it just seemed like that defender was invisible when that throw went up from Tan. But wise timeout call from Pitt to kind of set up their end zone offense. And we're in soft cap, so honestly, let the clock run a little bit too. Might as well use the timeout if you've got it.
Another look at that block. And Helensky saw it coming the whole way. And then Hoffenkamp with the high release forehand, and look at that grab from Ing. Using just about every inch she can to get up there. Kind of an awkward off-foot jump. This is really difficult to line that up, but brings it in despite the conditions. And you love to see somebody who hasn't really gotten to play in this game, maybe is a little bit cold, brought in at a critical juncture and he makes a play. I mean, that'll make any coach smile.
And that just shows the importance of every player on a roster. You might go to a tournament and you hardly get any play time, but you know what? Don't put too much pressure on yourself. Just go out and do the thing when you go in the game.
It's an old football adage, right? You just got to be ready when your number's called. You never know when it might be your turn. And Pittsburgh called Ing's number, and he came up with the play, and he comes up with the assist for the break. Kevin Trey squeezes free at the front cone. Pittsburgh just one goal away from potentially clinching Pool D.
And that point was all Pitt from the pull. Just such a great pull that started in really favorable defensive position, allowed for them to be able to get the turnover, and relying on your entire roster to be able to make it count.
Pittsburgh now above the 50% mark for defensive conversion rate, 5 for 9. That's been a big part of how they've achieved this 14-11 lead. Now, another goal here. Make them 2-1 in Pool C. Push Wisconsin to 1-2. And considering Pittsburgh already has a game in hand over Oregon, makes it very likely they will be basically a quarterfinalist. Pittsburgh, 10 straight years in quarterfinals. I mean, that is remarkable. We talked about building legacies. I mean, that is a legacy.
Unquestionably. And that trickles down and helps with your recruiting as well. You have players coming in from other sports saying, what the heck is this weird hippie thing? But you could say, look, we make it far in the tournament at nationals every year. Don't you want to be a championship contender?
To have a roster that just everyone on the team has played, everyone except the rookies really, has played in a meaningful game at nationals, has been there or been on the sidelines. It's so valuable, the institutional knowledge. Wisconsin trying to get an opportunity to get some of that of their own, but they may have a harder path if they can't come up with a bevy of scores. Pavelka around break for Vogt, who runs that one out. Vogt, a wobbly high release forehand to Paust, and he gets a little dish. Helensky says that Paust was in the end zone when he threw it, but I don't know that I see any signs that we're going to be bringing this one back.
Yeah, the observer kept his in call.
Tough to tell exactly from that angle, but I seems like a goal to me. And even if Helensky calls that one back, I don't know what they're hoping to accomplish there. Instead, it's a Wisconsin hold. It's 14-12, and they're still alive.
They scored when they needed to here to keep the game going. And they had very quick disc movement. It had Pitt on their heels. And so that's the balance, right? Especially with some windy conditions. You don't want to throw it too quickly so you're off balance and it's a bad pass. But some players get so nervous, oh, I've got to throw the exact right throw, that you're holding on to the disc for too long. Just have some control, get rid of it.
So we see Wolk, Beckham Landane guiding that defense. Jake Ruben Miller, who's already collected a handful of blocks. Daniel Garlock, who got the big layout block that set up a Wisconsin break. These are guys that they're going to turn to try and make a play and spark an improbable comeback. They're going to have to get this block here as Warren tries to squeeze it over the defense and intercepted by Wolk. Starts with a turn. Now here's Hebert up the line. Hebert with a call against the defense. And there have been quite a few calls in this game, but all resolved pretty amicably. Players expressing their perspectives, working with the observers.
Yeah, I wouldn't classify this game as chippy. At the beginning, it was a possibility it could go this way, but no personal misconduct fouls. I think all safe physicality.
And that's credit to the players. I mean, I think this game easily could have turned into a chippy affair as this one pops into the air, pulled down by Maddox Hill. But I think the players have done a great job approaching these conversations and these calls. You love to see that, especially on the showcase field. I mean, make no mistake about it, both these teams want it. So, looks like there's an injury sub here. Will Helensky coming in for Will Hoffenkamp on Pittsburgh's side. Nick Vogt coming in for Wisconsin. We'll see if either of those players can be a difference maker on this critical point. Back to Garlock. Now over to Mascalunas. Quiet game for Mascalunas. Usually one of the big playmakers for this D-line. But now they're just outside the end zone. Hebert looking for options. Sharp inside break. Not well executed, but Vogt there to save it.
Good thing Vogt has as much wingspan as he does, because that throw, we talk about the devil throw there, that inside was behind him a little bit.
And, you know, Vogt is obviously a talented player who's had a tough matchup, but he's had a tough game. I mean, this has not been his best performance, but to come up with a play when his team needs it is exactly what you want to see out of your captain, your Callahan nominee. And once again, this Pittsburgh team just will not go away.
Makes a really fun game, Multimid, and Keith, you were talking about earlier, you could see some visible frustration, what looked like frustration from Vogt, but their mature players can figure out how to channel that towards more positive energy to be able to make the plays instead of internalizing it or maybe taking it out on the other team or your teammates in a more negative fashion.
As we see the Pittsburgh coaches, Kazmarek and Lowry. Kazmarek, greatest stature as there is in the coaching ranks of the college division. Lowry joining the staff, a mainstay of the Pittsburgh Ultimate scene. And they're going to hope that this offense can put this game away now. They certainly don't want this to get any closer. They've led pretty much the whole way, but are in danger of conceding that lead should they fail to convert this upwind break.
What an exciting moment. Takes so much mental toughness as well. Those last couple of points are the most difficult for a team to put it away.
And that one nearly gets away, floats over the head of Hannah, but a foul call will preserve possession for Pittsburgh. Looks like it's uncontested.
From here, our vantage point, it looked like the disc stopped rotation.
No disagreement from me, Emmy, nor from the defense. So Pittsburgh's offense back moving, power position for Warren. He's going to use it to put up another huck. And a pair of Pittsburgh players are there. There seems to be a call.
It kind of looked like Pitt landed on Pitt with another Wisconsin player in that mix.
Well, we'll see if the game-winning score will be decided here. Wisconsin making a concerted effort, can't quite see the identity of the defender, but it seems like he is entering the space there. I don't really see the case for a foul from Harrison Bielski. He collides with Michael Ing, and his feet come out from under him. So I can see the case for calling a foul because it happens fast. You feel your feet come out from underneath you when you contact another player. But we'll see how this one is resolved.
And I really don't think that Bielski had a play on the disc in that moment.
And the observer agrees. It is referred to the orange, and they rule a goal. And now Pittsburgh rules Pool C with a win over Wisconsin 15-13. Nick Kazmarek, look at him go. He's fired up. He might rip off his shirt too. I don't know. You don't see the calm facade of Kazmarek dropped that often in public, but he is fired up for his team to get a win in that fashion, fighting off a Wisconsin team that just would not quit.
And I love that from coaches, somebody that's so calm and collected. When he gets excited, everybody knows, okay, that was big. That was very big. And they drop a game to Victoria, but you take care of business. You don't let that define the rest of the tournament. And instead, Pitt is in very, very favorable position going into bracket play.
Well, we'll have to stay tuned, see if Pittsburgh can make a run to the final as they did last year. For Emmy Fitzgerald, I'm Keith Rayner. We'll let you enjoy the highlights of this fantastic game between Wisconsin and Pittsburgh. We'll see you on the next one.